Okay, so I wanted to make some comparisons to baseball and hockey. Um, with baseball, it's not always a timed sport aside from the pitcher getting his foot off the rubber. That's pretty much the only time you'll see a clock ticking down. Hockey, the whole thing's a clock. You know, 60 minutes of ice time, assuming you're in the NHL, and 15 for high school, or 15 minute periods for high schoolers, and I think 10 for squirts. I think it's still 10 minutes for squirts, if I'm not mistaken, for that, but there is time involved. Um, you know, these sports are the oldest in North America. They're older than football and basketball, oddly enough. And it's actually not surprising too. These Hockey was always invented. Like after soccer, people wanted to experiment with the game and they used sticks and clubs and stuff, and they whacked a ball around, and eventually it made its way and evolved to ice because apparently Canadians are bored in the winter, and thus began the birth of ice hockey. Boom, right there. So there's that. Baseball needed baseball is the most unique sport ever. Now, I mean, there's elements of cricket and stuff like that, and that's really the only thing you can really compare it to. But the bat itself is designed in a way where you have to hit a very specific point to launch it 400 feet to dead center field for a home run. So it's not an easy thing to do, to even hit a baseball, but it's much easier to hit a cricket uh, ball, despite the fact that the oh no the baller is trying to hit you at the same time. Now, in baseball, if you try to throw at a guy's temple, you're going to be knocked down, assuming your catcher doesn't catch him first. So there's that. Um, so I mean, baseball and hockey, they do have their fighting, but in baseball, you're going to be ejected automatically. In the NHL, you will get some, you can at least stay in the game for 10 minutes at times, and you can stay in after a fight, uh, depending on what happens. AHL, you can kind of get the boot. You're not allowed to do it in amateur leagues. Um, it, and hockey's much more of an aggressive game than baseball is. But they do have their strategies, though. They really do have their strategies. And despite all of it, despite all of that, you know, you know, it is a very the game still goes in motion. Baseball's the more statistical game. It's much easier to analyze things because you can stop and see a stolen base and everything. It is screams statistics. Hockey is more in motion. You can't analyze each pass or each complete pass and everything. It's not that same way in football, but you see the passes or even, you know, turnovers and stuff in the neutral zone and stuff. It's harder to analyze that, but baseball, it's just the most analytical game you can get to. But hockey requires much more force and aggression. Um, in baseball, you have about 35,000 fans on average attend the game. That can fill up to capacity. You can probably get it to 45,000 on most stadiums in the MLB. In hockey, you're lucky if you can get 20,000 in the arena at a time. And and we were scrapping 4,000 in Arizona for an NHL team, and it was the most embarrassing thing when the Coyotes were playing in with the Sun Devils in at Arizona State. Believe me, had the Sun Devils not been there, the Coyotes could have been in Houston or Utah much sooner. So there's that. Hockey is much more expensive than baseball, and I mean baseball is expensive. I mean, the bat, the helmet, the gloves, the batting gloves, the cleats. The cleats you can actually get away with more. They can last. I think you know. They actually can have a little more wear and tear, but I think overall you don't need to put as much money into them because you don't need your skates sharpened, and that's another thing too. You can spend $400 on a pair of hockey skates, but you need to get them sharpened every 10 skates or every 20 hours or so that you're on the ice, and that can get costly too. Because, okay, so let's say you go 11 weeks, or let's see, you get 2 hours of 10 sessions, it's $10 and stuff, or you're doing, or it's like every 10 or so hours, or depending on what league you're in, you're going to be spending about, it's now up to $13 here. But for round numbers, let's just say 10, but you're doing that for 11 sessions or 11 times, uh, or 11 times 10, you're doing that over 100 hours. You're going to be spending about, um, let's see, 13 times divided by 10. Yeah, you're going to be spending about $130 on that, and eventually you would have spent more on the sharpenings than you would at the skates. And explain that to a baseball player. I mean, they don't exactly shine their shoes in that sense, but it, but I mean, it's a requirement automatically too. But you don't need to pay someone to shine your shoes in baseball. You can clean your cleats if it's necessary, and grab an old rag and some dish soap and water, and then you can get it clean. There's ways to do that. Um, Baseball on TV is, I think it can be much more watchable too. Now you don't have to go to the stadium and pay high exorbitant prices for snacks and drinks and stuff. And the same with hockey too. I mean, we have drone footage now. You have guys now piloting the drones like those old helicopters you'd get from Radio Shack if you remember, if you're that old school. But we have ways of getting the broadcast with all these different types of views and everything of the sort to put it into your living room. And you don't get, now there is the spectator aspect of this. I think the tickets are always the most valuable when you're on either the first base side or the third base side. Maybe if you're in the outfield and and you have a chance of a Shohei Ohtani homer to catch, is it actually going to be worth it to go into the outfield? But I find that if you really want to analyze the game, you want to have the greatest experience. It's either behind the plate or on the first base side or the third base side. And you're down on the lower level. You're not in the upper deck, and I think that's the one thing you know I don't like too. Is the upper deck too. I think the hockey upper decks in the arenas or in the basketball arenas, they are much better at prepping the it's much more easier to go there than it is on the upper decks too. I've been to the upper decks in Oriole Park, um, and it is a little scary to get up there, more than the Panthers arena. Let me tell you, I've been to Merit Bank Arena. I've been to Oriole Park. I've not been to Marlins Park yet, but I've been to RFK, been to Nationals Park, been to Shea, been to the other Yankee Stadium in the one that was up in 2007. I've been to Fenway and several minor league parks. One in Pawtucket, one in Frederick, one in Port St. Lucie, and one in Palm Beach, Florida. So I think that the minor league parts do it best. I love the the experience of minor league baseball, and actually, you're outside, but you're but when you're at a hockey game, it is, you know, the lights are dimmed to it's you know you have to be in your seat. There's a million and one things that could go wrong in the dark. Let me tell you about that. But there's but but watching a baseball game, you know, actually going to the stadium and watching baseball is, it's way more fun too. And the tickets are cheaper too. And there's a reason the why the MLB outsells, you know, NBA tickets, NFL tickets, NHL tickets, Taylor Swift concerts, and you name it. Like that, it is the one sport that is the most um that is the most, accessible than anything. I mean, you got people with wheelchairs can go more easily, especially in the minor league parks for in the minor league parks for the let me see it for games and everything of the sort. So there's that. You can you can absolutely go to a game, and um the one thing I do miss about the, about it about going to games is that they're not doing any physical tickets anymore, to my knowledge, or at least not to the stadiums I've gone to. The last time I received a physical ticket for anything was 2018, and I wasn't going to too many hockey games either. And that was for the Stadium Series at the Naval Academy, where the Capitals were playing the Maple Leafs. So there was that, and it's gone. It was gone, and now we're not doing tickets anymore. So there's that. I do think that I think baseball is going to be more popular globally than hockey in the next few years, because there's always going to be that aspect of going onto a field and just playing. I mean, and kids nowadays, I don't. I mean, uh, Penguin Z0, aka Morse Critical, thought that hockey would be a little more popular or get to a certain place. I don't blame him for thinking that, because it is a very underrated sport. But I'm telling you, a lot of parents are not going to want to put their kids in harm's way, um, even without the checking too. Now, I do think the culture of hockey will, is going to reach a certain threshold, and that's going to be it. You'll still have generations coming up, but I think that many parents are not going to want to invest in their kids after high school, because I know a lot of kids that just stopped playing hockey after high school or during high school, and they were focused on their career. They went to college and focused on their career, or they were playing a different sport, or they quit, or whatever, or it was too expensive, and they played lacrosse, or they played something else, or they were on the field. They didn't want to do it. It's hard too. But I think but baseball is much more universal. You run to first. You don't skate to first. You you know it's way easier too. I mean, and baseball is is cons you know baseball is concerned with ups. Who's up? I'm not up. He's up. And hockey is concerned of getting of checking people into the boards and putting them down onto the ice and getting goals and slapping pucks around and all that. And the only and and the hockey puck can be up. You can be up and down. So hockey's much more versatile. Think about that. That's a little funny joke though. But if I was great at baseball, like really great as a 10-year-old kid, and I just kept going and going and going and going after everything, and just became the most dominant athlete in from my hometown, I would um I would I definitely would have wanted to at least give it a shot to go play Major League Baseball. If that ever happened too. But the only reason I was playing hockey was because I was bad at baseball. I think I would have been great at baseball had I been trained right, and you know, and had I been started sooner too. I probably would have been the greatest baseball player of all time. I'm kidding, by the way, but but to watch a game is much more exciting. Whether it's just the culture of the hot dog or and the fries and just taking a nice girl on a date with the sun. You're in the sun or you're in the shade or it's a sunny day out and you're actually enjoying the game and you're watching it and there's a nice breeze and it's just so peaceful. I'll tell you that one thing, like nothing matches like that. And I think but and it's okay to bring a girl to a hockey game. I'm not against that, but I'm telling you that baseball just seems much more appropriate. Like I want to be in the sun too. And that's probably what other people think too. And sometimes the ice is not frozen. The ponds are not always frozen too. And and you can't go play it. But even in the winter you can throw a baseball around with your friend and you can suck it up and just enjoy the time that you have because baseball is the perfect sport. You know, is there infield fly rule, all that stuff? I'd argue that some of the rules are much more complicated, but rarely will you ever see that too. But interference is easy to understand, or interference or obstruction of a fielder impeding the runner. I think that's easier to understand. But interference in hockey is just taking a guy out of the play who didn't necessarily have the puck. So that's actually a similarity. I can go on with this though, but I love baseball and final point, if I did have to, like, I get to choose where I take a girl on a date, a sunny baseball game at Oriole Park or well, can't really do Marlins Park though. That's the Dome Stadium though, but if I get but let's say I take her to the Palm Beach Cardinals game and it's sunny out and it's a good, early April day. It's not too much. Maybe it's like 4:30 in the afternoon. Um, it's much more, or the sun's going down on a nice sunset. I would much rather take a girl to a baseball game. And I do think, but every time someone scored a goal at Capital One Arena, it is loud as heck. I'll tell you that much. It is the loudest thing you will ever experience. Like if you've ever heard a goal horn and you're like right behind, you're sort of towards the upper part of the bowl, like I mean, it is. I'll tell you something. It just rings loudly to you. Like I have had to put earplugs in my ears when I was at Capital One Arena. I'm not gonna lie. It was it was very loud for Game Four of the Stanley Cup Finals back in 2018. Very loud. I don't recommend it to anyone. To well, no, I don't recommend being, you know, where I was right near the part of the speakers where I was. Don't recommend that too. But there's still speakers too, but you're in the stadium. It's not gonna be, overwhelming to you for the most part because you're gonna be, it's open air and sound travels at a certain, you know, at a different frequency or a different rate than it would be in an interior facility. But it's much more romantic to take a girl on a date in a baseball stadium than it is uh to a baseball game than it is a hockey game. And that's why I think baseball is just going to be the more recognized sport globally in the next few years. Uh, Thank you for listening to my video essay. If you like that, hit the like button, comment, subscribe, and peace out.